This phone is like a succubus. It lures you with its beautiful looks and amazing price. But beware. Ordering this phone on the website is pretty straightforward. Apart from that, you need an invite. It ships to a wide range of countries, and in Europe the import tax was already included in the price, and I like that. Whereas it costs differently, 270 euros in Europe, 250 American dollars in US, and 200 pounds in UK. The phone actually comes in two versions. Onyx version, which is the cheaper one, and the ceramic version, which is a lot more expensive. Apparently the ceramic version's glass is specially made, so that makes it a lot more expensive. On the top there's a 3.5mm audio jack, on the left a priority switch, on the bottom two speaker looking areas, but only one of them is a speaker and the other I assume is a microphone. Between those two speaker looking areas a micro USB plug. On the right a power button, a volume rocker and a tray for 2 nano SIMs or 1 nano SIM and an SD card. A daylight sensor, front speaker and a front facing camera on the top. And on the bottom part there are also capacitive buttons, but you can barely see them on the black version, but they're easily seen on the white one. A back camera and a LED flash on the back. The Onyx version weighs 138 grams and the ceramic version 160 grams. They're both 6.9mm thick. The phone features a quad-core 2.3 GHz Crate 400 CPU, an Adreno 330 GPU, 3 GB of RAM, and the only model that there is has 16 GB of internal storage. It does not have NFC or a fingerprint sensor or wireless charging. Okay, OnePlus. But what really makes me mad is that it doesn't have AC Wi-Fi. Really, OnePlus, this is such a feature to miss out on. This makes me mad especially because I have 5 GHz Wi-Fi connection at home. But you'd be like, it's a $250 phone, they had to cheap out on something, right? But even a 3-year-old phone such as Nexus 4 that cost around the same at the time had AC Wi-Fi, wireless charging and NFC. Well then let's focus on what it has. It has all the Wi-Fi compatibilities listed on the screen, Bluetooth, GPS and radio. Moving on to performance. This phone runs quite well and yeah, here are the results of some benchmarks. The actual phone in the UI doesn't have really big problems with performing. It works quite well with a few stutters when opening apps, but usually doesn't. That brings me to the next subject, the Oxygen UI that OnePlus X is running out of the box. It has few customization features, and it has few cool features like gestures. You can assign double tap to wake up your phone, and also on the desktop of the phone you can't add anything to the left side except the Oxygen UI feature they call shelf, which is kind of useless anyways, since you could use that left side for more important information that you want to put there instead of certain things. For example, a Twitter widget. You can put it on the shelf, but you cannot change the size of it, so you're stuck with the default sizes, unlike you could do normally. Most of the applications included were pretty good and satisfied my needs, but except for one that I really didn't like, and that brings me on to the next subject, is the camera. The included camera app has time-lapse slow motion photo, video and panorama, but I really missed that it doesn't have the photosphere that can be seen in the Google camera app. It's also kind of hard to understand what you're actually changing in the quality settings. So the front camera is a 13 megapixel camera. It can take photos up to 4K resolution. Record video on 1080p at 30 FPS and 720p at 120 FPS. Although I have to say that the slow motion looks very bad. The secondary front camera is 8 megapixel camera and the photos look okay, and that's enough for selfies. So the screen is 5 inches large and the resolution is 1920 by 1080p. It is protected by Gorilla Glass 3. The display is an AMOLED. You can adjust the screen to a very bright setting, like it can get very bright. This phone has a non-removable 2525 mAh battery. At the end of my workday, this phone was usually left with 50 to 60% battery, but I have to mention that my phone usage is very light. The phone is kind of easy to hold, but the grip was very uncomfortable for me. Even with the medium-sized hands I have, I had to move my palm grip just to press the power button, for example. The back is made out of glass, so it slides on your hand really easily, and it feels like it's gonna fall out really easily. So it's very easy to drop it if you're holding it with a glove. While the case still keeps the phone hard to hold, it actually makes it not slide in your hand and just makes it generally a better grip. This phone probably requires a skin on the back. I've used this phone for over a week now, so I'm going to tell you some of my problems and how this phone worked in my daily life. So my biggest complaint is that it doesn't have AC Wi-Fi connectivity. It seems to be a trend for this phone's antenna to be doing a bad job. It doesn't have AC, but when I run a speed test with this phone and some other phones, this phone was always about 13 megabits per second behind the other phones. Not a good sign about the antenna. They probably cheaped out on the antenna a lot. The double tap to wake gesture is very useful and I used it a lot, but sometimes I noticed that even with 2 presses it sometimes didn't wake the phone. So this phone without a case slides very easily and it's just unprotected, and it's a fingerprint magnet as well, to be honest, on the back and on the front. To not scratch the back, I'm definitely going to get a skin for this phone or keep on the case. To be honest, the phone looks very cool and it feels very high quality, so you can definitely show it off on daily basis. One amazing feature that the Oxygen UI has is being able to switch from capacitive buttons to on-screen buttons, which I really like, but the battery life in daily usage was okay for me, and even on harsher days I only dropped down to 30% at the end of the work day. Overall, I'd say it's a solid phone for the price it sells at. So who is this phone for? It's for people who don't mind sacrificing performance for looks. If you're more of a usability oriented person, the OnePlus One would be a lot better for you, and it costs only a few euros more. In general, I would say that this phone is a very good budget smartphone in 2015.